Hi, we're your Daily Collegian Football Beat. We're here to talk about number 23 Penn State, number 3 Alabama matchup this week. It's the only ranked matchup in college football, I believe, here in week 2. So we'll get right into it, talk about Penn State's offense against Alabama's defense. You guys just want to take it away?
Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about and kind of criticizing Joe Paterno for not naming a starting quarterback 2 weeks in. He's not alone, though. Crimson Tide haven't named a starting quarterback yet. Nick Saban this week on Monday said he still wants to get 2 guys working. That's A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims, who both played against Kent State in their first game. Both threw 2 picks. Neither of them really impressed. McCarron had the better numbers, 14 of 23 passing for over 200 yards, while Sims was only 7 of 14 for 77 yards. So still have some questions there at quarterback for the Tide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're going to have to rely on their running game, as is Penn State. You got Silas Red, Brandon Beecham. Fullbacks got involved last week, Joe Suey, Mike Zordich, especially with the inclement weather possible. There could be some rain. The running games are going to be key for both teams.
Yeah, big thing for Alabama is going to be Trent Richardson. He's a big, strong back, and Mike Maldy said earlier this week that their performance against Alabama last year was embarrassing. So they're really focused on gang tackling and get as many players as they can on Richardson because he's a tough player to bring down. And if you can bring him down, I think that's obviously going to be huge for Penn State.
All right. And also, with the weather being wet, it might be really run heavy, like I think Steve talked about. Plus, Penn State receivers last week had a couple drops, so they'll probably be really focusing on securing the ball this week. I don't know if we'll see a whole lot of really complicated pass plays. Might be a lot of quick out stuff like that. And we kind of talked about Alabama's offense there, but what else can you guys see from Alabama, whether it's Richardson or the quarterbacks?
Well, I think Marquise Mays is someone to look for. We might not see a whole lot of throws, but Marquise Mays he's an explosive receiver, and he showed it last year against Penn State. Obviously, Julio Jones kind of overshadowed him a little bit, but now he's the number 1 guy. He's somebody to look for. But the big question still, as Mike alluded to earlier, is the quarterback going to be able to get him the ball, whether it's Phillip Sims or A.J. McCarron. They both have the potential to do so, but 2 picks each against Kent State, not exactly what Nick Saban was looking for out of his team week 1.
Yeah, Alabama's, especially their offensive line, they're bringing back 4 starters, I believe. I think we looked at this week, and only one new guy. So they have some experience in the offensive line, which should help them in the running game, which is already good, and should at least help them with their passing game, which is really unexperienced. So I think kind of like Penn State, if they want to win the game, whoever team wants to win the game, offensive line needs to be really big and really strong for the team.
And it looks like, on paper, Alabama has the serious advantage at O-line. Both McGloin and Bolden had no time to throw last week. Huge holes for the running game, but if that O-line can't give Bolden or McGloin, whoever is in there, any time against a really talented Alabama defense, the passing game can really struggle.
Absolutely, and they know they didn't do well last week, and they know they need to be better in pass protection. Bolden's he's an athletic quarterback, but at the same time, you want him in the pocket. You want him to have time. You would rather have any quarterback in the pocket than on the run. So the offensive line is going to be a major, major difference maker Saturday.
All right, and one thing that's hurt Penn State the past few years is special teams in big games like this, but they should have a little help this week from last week. Got another player coming back here. Actually, 2 players that may be able to help on special teams. You guys want to talk about the kicking position?
Yeah, kicker Anthony Farah is returning to the team after a very, very brief absence. He did something in the offseason where I guess we're not really positive what it was. We can assume what it was. But he's finally back with the team and should help in the kicking game, which was really bad last week. Their punting average was down from last year. They missed 2 field goals, not including an extra point, so that's 3. And their kickoff average was down, I think, 3 yards from last year. So position battle is going to be huge this week, and if Penn State wants to have a chance at winning, they're going to need to pin Alabama down in tough positions and hit those 35, 40-yard field goals that are really going to make the difference in the game.
Yeah, Evan Lewis, starting kicker from last week, really didn't show us much at all. Missed a pair of very makeable field goals and an extra point as well. And in a game against Indiana State where you blow them out 38-7, 7 points doesn't mean a whole lot. But when you're playing a team like Alabama, where every single possession is so important, that 7 points can be the big difference, and they're going to need those 7 points.
Yeah, and I think the punting too, as Joe talked about before, it could be a battle of field position. Bad weather. A lot of runs, a lot of quick outs. We could see some just punting back and forth, and if Penn State's pinned inside their own 20 almost every possession, Alabama gets to start in the 35, it's going to make a big difference in field position.
Yeah, I feel like I should add before everybody rises on Evan Lewis. Colin Wagner missed his first 2 field goals as a Penn Stater.
He had a great season.
He had a great season last year, and ended up having a great season the year that he missed the 2 field goals to start the season. So don't give up on Evan Lewis yet, but what he showed last week was obviously not promising. But we'll see what happens.
And a guy we talked about last week that we were wondering if he would play was Stephon Green, and Joe Paterno said earlier this week that he thinks Green will see the field along with Derek Thomas, but Green's been a guy on special teams, whether it's kickoff coverage, return game. He can kind of have an effect and really help that field position battle you guys are talking about.
We've talked a lot about the offense, but I really think this could be an offensive struggle. I think defense is going to be a big part of this game on both sides. I really like Penn State's linebackers. I feel like they have a lot of talent. There's a lot of depth there. Anybody can really play. And I feel like they really need to step up, as we were talking about, to stop Trent Richardson.
Absolutely. I mean, the defense is key. Alabama's a great defense. Several All-Americans and All-SEC players returning. You got Dante Hightower in the middle, and he's going to be matching up with Silas Red all day. That's going to be a big matchup to look for, and as well as Glenn Carson against Trent Richardson and the rest of Alabama's backs. Carson, he didn't do much last week, but Indiana State threw the ball. We saw a bunch of different linebackers get time. I think it was 7. So we didn't see a lot out of him last week, but this is going to be very telling for Maudie, Carson, Hodges, the starting 3 linebackers, as to whether they can really play at the national level.
All right, well, 3:30 Saturday, Penn State, Alabama, one of the most marquee contests this week. You can follow us on Twitter during the game, give us any kind of comments, questions you might have, and stay tuned for a post-game video. We'll see what happens.